The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear the remaining testimony of through TCW 1036 and begins hearing testimony of a civil party through TCCP 1064 in relation to regulation of marriage. Ms. Sakalwati, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Grazie. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to discuss are present, except Mr. Liu Sawanna, the National Counsel for Nuji, who is absent without providing any reason. Mr. Nuji is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his rights to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to conclude his testimony today, that is to TCW 1036, as well as his duty counsel, are present in the courtroom. And the upcoming civil party through TCCP 1064 is ready to be called by the chamber. Thank you. President, thank you, Ms. Sakalwati. The chamber now decides on the request by Nuon Chea. The chamber has received a waiver from Nuon Chea dated 22nd September 2016, which states that due to his health, that is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his rights to be present at the 22nd September 2016 hearing. He advises that his counsel advised him about the consequence of this waiver, that in no way it can be construed as a waiver of his rights to be tried fairly or to challenge evidence presented to or admitted by this court at any time during this trial. Having seen the medical report of Nuon Chea by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 22nd September 2016, which notes that today Nuon Chea has back pain and feels dizzy when he sits for long, and recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nuon Chea his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. The chairman instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nuon Chea can follow. That applies for the whole day. And before I hand the floor to the co-prosecutor to continue putting further question to the witness, the chamber issues an oral ruling on decision to call trial chamber witness to TCW 1065. On 13 September 2016, the chamber informed the parties that it was considering calling one additional witness for the trial topic on the nature of the armed conflict, that is to TCW 1065, and invited the parties to make submissions on the matter. Having heard the parties' submissions on 15 September, the chamber decides to call through TCW 1065 during the topic on the nature of the armed conflict, and will hear him after 13th October 2016 for 2 days. The OCP will initiate questioning. The written records of interview associated to this witness are therefore admitted into evidence with the following numbers: E319/43.3.4 is designated as E3/10667. E319/43.3.10 becomes E3/10668, and E319/43.3.11 is designated as E3/10669. The Chamber notes that the 3 written records of interviews indicates that the interviews of 2 TCW 1065 were audio or video recorded and will address this matter in due course. Written reasons will follow in due course. Again, I hand the floor to the co-prosecutor to continue putting further questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, Counsel, Mr. Witness. I wanted to follow up with you on a few questions about the trip to Phnom Penh that Defense Counsel asked you about yesterday. How long did it take for your group to drive from Battambang to Phnom Penh?
I left at night time and I didn't know what time it was. And when I arrived, it was dawn.
And how many vehicles or trucks were in the group, the convoy that you traveled with?
There were 2 vehicles.
And do I understand correctly that one of those vehicles was a big GMC truck?
Yes.
And what was the second vehicle?
It was a jeep.
Did you go through Phnom Penh on your way from Battambang to Phnom Penh?
It's likely that we went through Phnom Penh, but since I did not know the location well and since it was night time.
Do you know whether or not Tanim had obtained travel passes from the center for your 2 vehicles to travel through Phnom Penh, to travel from Battambang down to Phnom Penh?
I did not know about that.
When you arrived in Phnom Penh, you said it was dawn. Did you get outside of your vehicle and do anything while you were there, or did you remain in your vehicle?
I remained in my vehicle except when I had to relieve myself.
And how long in total were you in Phnom Penh before you returned?
I didn't stay overnight, and during the daytime on that day I remained there, but we left again at night.
Now, you testified yesterday that you didn't travel with Tanim when you went to Phnom Penh, that he had left Battambang at 9 a.m. in the morning and you left at night. When you arrived in Phnom Penh, did you see Tanim and talk to him there?
No.
Since he didn't travel with you, do you know whether Tanim was even there in Phnom Penh when you arrived?
He had gone there before I left.
My question is, did you see him in Phnom Penh while you were there?
I did not see him because when I was there, they told me to remain with my vehicle, and I did not know where he went or whether he was somewhere in the area.
Now, you testified yesterday that the uniforms that were picked up, you described them as Vietnamese military uniforms, bluish in color. During the time you worked with Tanim, did you ever hear whether the leaders of Democratic Kampuchea were trying to put spies or agents within Vietnam to find out what was going on there? Did you ever hear anything on that subject?
No, I did not.
Let me turn to another subject, Mr. Witness. You testified yesterday that one of your assignments while you were in the sector military in the pre-April 75 period was to spy on Lon Nol barracks. You identified one location as Banan. When the Khmer Rouge took power on 17 April 1975, what happened to the Lon Nol officials and soldiers, especially those who held ranking positions?
I didn't know anything about that. That was the affairs of the senior people to deal with.
Do you know what happened to the Lon Nol soldiers who were at the barracks that you had been spying on?
After I went spying in that locations, then there was an attack on that barrack.
Okay, I want to focus on the period immediately after the Khmer Rouge took power in 17 April 1975. I want to just ask you about an excerpt in a book that was written by Tet Sambat. This is E3/4202, E3/4202, ERNs Khmer 008588392, English 007575552, French 0084940. This was a book written based on his interviews of Nuon Chea, and in this excerpt he's discussing Nuon Chea's hometown, which we talked about yesterday, Wat Kor. And this is what is written, quote, "His hometown also suffered devastating losses. Many pilots serving in the government Air Force lived in Wat Kor, and most of them were killed during the Khmer Rouge years." End of quote. Did you ever hear anything, Mr. Witness, about the pilots who had served in the Lon Nol Air Force in Wat Kor, Nuon Chea's hometown? Did you ever hear anything about that?
No, I did not.
Let me move to another subject that Defense Counsel asked you about yesterday, and that was an individual who went by the revolutionary alias Hom. And I wanted to, do you read, Mr. Witness?
No, I don't.
Well, let me read to you. There is a telegram that's in evidence, Your Honors. This is document E3 /1208, E3 /1208. It is a telegram that was written by Tanim on the 21st of December 1977 to respected Ankar 870. And the last sentence of this telegram reads as follows, quote, "I wish the security to ask Ham, who is responsible for zone military logistics, as soon as possible, so that all of his connections are identified and arrested." End of quote. The Ham that you spoke of yesterday, who had been part of the Northwest Zone General Staff, was his assignment or his position the chief of logistics or the chief of the zone military economics?
He was with the Northwest Zone.
Let me read to you what you said in your OCIJ interview, E3 /9581 at answer 67. And you were asked about Horm, and you identified the 3 people you knew who had that name. And this is the 3rd person who went by the name Horm. This is what you identified as his role. Quote, "He used to be a military commander, but as he was aged and injured, he was assigned to take charge of rice and ammunition warehouses in Salacrau, east of Pailin." End of quote. Is that the Ham that you were talking about yesterday with Defense Counsel? Was that his position? And do you remember whether he held the title of Chief of Zone Military Economics or Logistics?
I do not know about his position. Counsel for Nuon Chea, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I might be mistaken, but the telegram that was referred to by the prosecutor doesn't talk about hom, but in the English translation, som. French is hom. I just was informed, but in my English version it says som with an S.
You might have an old version. I have the one right off of Xylab with the E3 number on it, and it says hom.
That's true. I have the same one. I just opened it.
I have a E3/1208.
Yes.
Yeah, it says som with an S.
The hom that you remembered that had been part of the Northwest Zone military that you remember, is he someone who survived the Khmer Rouge regime or someone who was arrested and disappeared at some point during the regime?
I did not know about that.
The reason I ask you, Mr. Witness, is this telegram is a request from NIM asking about his interrogation, the interrogation of this person who had been responsible for zone military logistics. And in the S21, the OCIJ S21 list, number 1,791 on that list, 1791, is a 36-year-old male named P or he, Hin, alias Ham, identified as Chief of Northwest Zone Military Economics, who entered S21 on the 13th or 14th of September 1977 and died in October. Did you know Ham's full name? Do you remember whether the Ham who was in charge of the rice and ammunition warehouses who you identified in your interview, whether his full name was P or he, Hin, alias Ham?
I did not know. I only heard people refer to him as Ham.
Last subject I want to ask you about, Mr. Witness. Are you able to tell the court what happened during the Khmer Rouge regime to the Vietnamese people who were still living in Battambang province?
I did not know.
I ask you as one of the another one of the reports that was sent by TANIM to the party leaders in Phnom Penh, that is an evidence E3/863, E3/863. It's a telegram or report dated 17 May 1978, less than a month before the time of his arrest. And in this report to Ankar 870, the fifth paragraph reads as follows. The meeting raised a question about how to decide on the elements of soldiers from previous regime and the Yun with Khmer spouses and the half-breed Khmer Yun. Regarding this issue, the meeting would like to ask Ankar 870 what to do with them. Whatever Ankar decides, please give instruction. End of quote. First question, Mr. Witness, do you remember during the time you worked with Tanim whether he reported to and received instructions from the leaders in Phnom Penh?
I did not know about that since I was not close to him.
Did you ever accompany him to Phnom Penh?
No, I did not.
In the same telegram, which, as I said, is written less than a month before his arrest, Tanim wrote the following at the bottom of this, quote, "I have already received a telegram which advised me to take a rest at the hospital. An illness still exists, especially irregular blood pressure, which is up and down all the time. I have had a lower back pain for 2 to 3 days. I'm not able to sit and walk." And it continues on, and he says that if the illness becomes more serious, he will go seek treatment. Does this refresh your memory? Do you remember whether towards